And then boom, here we are in the Arizona desert. Isn't that amazing? So what we have here is a Pedersoli reproduction of a 1795 Springfield 69 caliber smoothbore musket. Now, the chances of them having what would have been considered a top-line weapon in the militia armory is unlikely. However, what they probably had was a 1700s, 1765, 17 something Charleville 69 caliber smoothbore musket, also flintlock. Many of those French Charleville muskets were in the armories of the United States and were used in the Revolutionary War, amongst other things. So for them being in the militia would have been the most likely scenario. Regardless, the 1795 Springfield is nothing more than an American reproduction, or I should say American manufactured Charleville musket. They essentially copied the gun identically, down to even simple things like this barrel band up here. They're almost hard to determine one from the other unless you actually get to look at them closely. So we have here something that is equal in performance to what if the enslaved people had broken that armory, and if they found weapons, and if they found ammunition, this is what they would have had. We have a target down there at 50 yards, and what I want to demonstrate for you is the loading process, and that the individual that doesn't have training with an individual musket, meaning they know the idiosyncrasies and quirks of that particular musket, and the fact that they don't know how to work together as a militia, in that they are not well regulated in terms of doing volley fire and one person loading while the other one's firing, etc. Even a large number of these amongst people that have not had a lot of discipline and training with it does not really provide much of a force multiplier. So personally, I don't think they found any weapons. I think the weapons were at home with the planter class, and when they broke in the armory they found uniforms and drums, and they probably were only armed with cane knives and axes. But that's neither here nor there for this. So let's go through the process of loading this and showing you that even at 50 yards, someone like myself who frankly shoots a lot may not actually hit that target. So this is actually a Civil War era pouch. I don't have a leather ammunition pouch from that period, but in terms of function, they're identical. So I'm going to open the pouch, and you cock your hammer, the half cock, and your frizzen is open. And you take out one of your paper cartridges, just like this. This is assuming that they even had paper cartridges in that armory. And you tear the end off. At that point, you kind of open up the pouch and you pour a little bit of the powder into this pan, which is your primer. Once you got enough of that in there, get the excess off. You close the frizzen like that. Then you still have powder and ball here. You take the rest of that, pour it down the muzzle, carefully seat the ball, and then ram it home. Reseat your ramrod, and you are now ready to fire one shot. Let's see if we can hit it at 50 yards. If it even goes off. And lo and behold, it went off, which, by the way, with a gun that you haven't used yet, might not. And I missed. Let's go ahead and reload again. This gun does not have a rear sight. It has strictly a front post, similar to how you would deal with a shotgun. And, well, that tells you what this is for. This is meant for volley fire, many men in a row firing at the same time. Once again, cartridge out of the box. Tear the end off. Half cock the hammer. Fill the pan. Close the frizzen. Pour the rest of the powder down the bore. Seat the ball. Ram it home. Reseat your ramrod. Cock the hammer. Take aim. I missed again! I'm telling you, unless you have a lot of practice with these guns, and I do not have a lot of practice with this gun, 50 yards is a challenging shot. Let's see if we can get it on the third one. Keep in mind, they probably didn't even have this much ammunition. Ammunition was a very precious resource. But let's see. Let's do it again. Right? Gotta get it this time, right? Meanwhile, of course, if you were closing in with a melee weapon, an axe or a knife, you would have got to me by now, right? Unless there was someone on your squad or in your group providing cover fire, you are vulnerable while you're doing this. There we go. Hey, there it is. Third shot. Nice good hit on the steel. See if we can do that one more time. So, once again, a reminder, this is all happening under fire. The militia is coming after you. You don't know how to use this thing. You're not martially trained with this sort of gun. Come on. Even this is kind of a tricky process. Fill the pan. Close the frizzen. Rest of the powder. Down the bore. Now, each and every one of these guns has their own idiosyncrasies, as I mentioned earlier. And if you get good with it, you can hit much better than I am. I have not practiced with this musket. This is essentially very similar to what would have happened to them, except I even have more training than they would have. And so, once you get used to where this gun shoots and aims, for lack of a better term, sort of point fires, you can be better than what I'm doing here. But for those enslaved people who may or may not have found weapons like this in the armory, they would not have had any of that time to practice with the individual muskets. Yeah, we got another hit. So as you see, I'm starting to really figure this thing out. Let's see if I can go a little faster here, but speed is not of the essence with these things. That's why you need a squad. One of the advantages of a smooth bore is that you could keep shooting it even though it got fouled. That's why a lot of the militaries, when they use militias or official armies, trained with smooth bores and volley fire. It didn't really matter if the individual gun wasn't that accurate. Yeah, so now I've got it figured out. 50 yards I can reliably make hits. But imagine, under stress, may or may not have a lot of ammunition, a gun you're not familiar with, being fired at by a trained militia while trying to fight for your lives and freedom as an enslaved rebel army. I could see why they may not have had much of an effect, even though in modern days we think, well, they got guns. Maybe that didn't matter. But as you'll see in both of our videos, I think there's differing opinions on that, and they may not even have had guns. All right, here we go. Back to Atun-Shei and back to Louisiana. 1, 2, 3.